There's 3 problems with vision. 1, you don't have it. 2, you don't believe it. And 3, you're not communicating it. So we can't chase perfection, but we can chase excellence. We can chase persistence. That world of that system has left almost 80% of the country disengaged at work, and they don't trust management. But when you find something that you love to do and you're executing it and you're, getting better and better at it all the time, you feel fulfilled. And that fulfillment is what you gravitate to, not the skill development. He said, I don't make mistakes. I look at them as learning opportunities. He said, I've never made a mistake in my life. They're all learning opportunities. And I thought that's awesome mindset, right?
Dr. Dave, you've worked with everyone from pro athletes to business leaders. What's the moment when someone realizes that their success is actually being sabotaged by unclear or unaligned core values?
Wow. What an awesome question. A lot of times it's a symptom, right? We look at the cause and the symptom. So we look at, I don't feel productive in my life. I don't feel happy. My bank account, the people around me are confused. These are some warning signs that, we're not established on who we are. I'm unabashedly, Christian. I do believe that having the Bible as a guardrail in your life and establishing vision, mission, core values allows you to put boundaries around you and borders. And so telling somebody, no, I can't do that. I don't look at that as conflict. I look at that as clarity and direction and where you're going with your life.
Gentlemen, one of the most important things you can do for your relationships, whether that's with your spouse or with your kids or your personal development, is to get a good night's sleep. Sleep is the underrated power move that most people are neglecting, especially in our American culture. We all try and get as little sleep as possible, and I'm telling you, it is setting you back. That's why we partner with Mike Lindell and MyPillow as sponsors of the show. MyPillow makes incredible products that help you get a good night's sleep and helps you in all kinds of areas of your house. My wife and I have MyPillow products throughout our house, from our bath towels to the products we sleep on every night to help us get good rest. And I need that when I'm running 4 shows and doing other shows on top of that. And I promise you need good sleep too. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code THRIVE for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 for our audience. MyPillow is an American company that is owned by its employees, and every dollar you spend there not only helps real Americans, but it also helps keep our show on the air. Go to MyPillow right now, get better sleep, and it will improve every factor of your life. Now, let's get back to the show. The Driven to Thrive broadcast: purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives. Welcome to the Driven to Thrive broadcast, where men learn to lead themselves, their families, and the world with purpose, growth, and lasting impact. I'm your host, Brent Allen, and let's get straight into it, because today's guest is a rare triple threat: pro athlete, Air Force veteran, performance coach with a doctorate in sport psychology, plus Dave Jones. Dr. Dave Jones is the founder of M is Good, one of the world's largest Christian marketing agencies. The mind behind the R7 process, which we're not even going to touch on, but oh my goodness, guys, you will want to go further after you listen to this conversation. The R7 process for visionary messaging. He's coached NHL and NFL athletes in mental toughness, and now he's helping men like you and me lead with clarity, purpose, and faith. His new book, Vision Wins, is a faith-driven fable packed with lessons on mental toughness and living a life that glorifies God. Dr. Dave, welcome to the show, man. I'm really excited about our conversation today. Before I gave a brief introduction, but honestly, that doesn't really articulate who people are. So just for the reference of our listeners today, what do you want them to know about who you are today as we have this conversation?
Yeah, I would say that I'm a sinner saved by grace, just like everybody else out there. I have made some pretty good decisions in my life and have committed to a process of peak performance. I don't look at myself as great. I look at myself as committing to a process. I do run one of the largest Christian advertising agencies in the world. I did spend 13 years pursuing my doctorate in sport and performance psychology. I love to read and I love peak performance. And so I don't know that I'm special in any way other than I've committed to a process and I've allowed faith to be dominant in my life. Yes, I've messed up. Yes, I've made bad decisions, but I've always looked at the idea that except for the grace of God, there go I.
Now, Dave, let me tell you a secret because I'm actually super excited about this conversation. My very first episode, I'm approaching 400 episodes on this show, was about the importance of establishing core values, what your core values were, have a foundation to work off of. But I've never actually had this discussion with anybody on the show. I've never actually talked to another person or a professional about core values. That was just a foundational start for me. And it's very important in my life. I'm not always eloquent at articulating these concepts sometimes. Yeah. And so I'm really excited to talk about core values as a foundation for men today and why it's important to have core values in your life and how that actually impacts you. So you had no idea you were walking into this. I'm super excited about the show. Yeah. And so this is kind of where I want to tackle the conversation today. I want to start with some ideas on why core values matter, right? I want to make the argument. Why should people actually establish some kind of core value and direct their life with that? And then dive into some common pushbacks I've gotten on that topic, because I'd love to hear your ideas on how to answer those naysayers. Those guys are like, well, that's all fine and dandy, Alan, but, and then we'll move on towards how it will impact people's lives and how to actually implement them. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, by the way.
I'm super, like, you have such a broad experience. And like I said, I did a brief intro, guys. I'm going to have so much more about Dr. Dave. This man has worked with the full plethora of professional entrepreneurs, professional athletes. Did I read you were actually a professional athlete for a while yourself?
Yeah, I played pro hockey in Europe for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, I don't even like to watch sports except hockey. I love hockey.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's get into it. So I would say that when you're talking about core values, it's kind of like eating a really delicious hamburger. Okay. So if we were to, if you were to come over to my house, I'd say, what would you want on your hamburger? Right. And so we'd have the lettuce, we'd have the cheese, we'd have the seasoning, we'd have the bun. And so you wouldn't say, man, this is a great bun. You would say, this is a great burger. And so, and maybe the bun's part of it. Core values are kind of like that. They're part of a bigger picture. So in order to have a core value that's applicable in your life, we got to have vision. In order to have vision, when we have vision, which is is a short, portable, easy to understand, memorable, inspiring statement about yourself and where you're going. It's kind of a written image of your future. So we have that North Star of where are we going? And then mission are the steps to get there. So some of the best vision statements that the world has ever seen. Bill Gates, back in the 70s, his vision was to have a computer in every home. And I don't know if you remember that, Brett, but like at that point, a computer was literally the size of a house. And Bill Gates is saying, we're going to have a computer in every home, which was just crazy talk. FedEx original vision was to be in every city every day. Like, that's crazy, right? At the time, it was just USPS. To be in every city every day. We look at it now and it's like they're in every city 2 and 3 times a day. And so this is a clearly written image of your future. So this is where we're going. It's our North Star. The mission are the steps to get there. The core value are the daily decisions and the boundaries you have to set and the decisions that come along daily that you go, you know what, I can't be a part of that because my vision and mission of where I'm going, it just doesn't work. It's an easy decision to make, on a daily, then if you have the vision and mission there, does that make sense? So the core values alone, in my opinion, can't just stand there by themselves. They help, they provide clarity and direction, but the vision and mission are part of that system.
Okay, so if I'm tracking right here, the core values give boundaries for your decision-making process, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We need them because it helps us guide not only our North Star metric, but it also puts those guide rails in to help us as we're dealing with the daily decisions, the impact, whether it's our business or as a husband, as a father, those values are going to help steer the yeses, the nos, the maybes, the choices we make.
Yeah, think of it as, if you want to go, you're from Washington State, right? And you want to go to Texas. Well, there's a road that you need to get on to go to Texas, right? So the vision is I'm going to Texas, right? And so what's the shortest distance from there is the road. So your vision is like, okay, I'm going to Texas. What is the road I need to go on? And then the mission is, okay, I've got to pack some things along the way. I've got to stop at a hotel. Do I stay, where do I stop? Where do I go? I got to get gas in the car. All these kind of daily executable decisions fall in the mission and the core values. Right. And so it's very similar. So if I say I want to be the best husband the world's ever seen, okay, that's our road. Now, what are the daily decisions? Okay, well, can I get drunk every night? Probably not. Right? Should I have some mentors that are in the fatherhood, right? Like that are good fathers, right? Yeah, well, that would be a good idea, right? Should I get some mentors that are more female? Well, if you want to be the best father, probably not a female mentor, probably a male mentor that has kids. Then it's a little bit older than you, right? So those daily decisions, should I work late? Should I be there for my family? Should I use my family as an excuse or a reason? That's a good one. If I want to be the best father on the planet. And so the vision's got to be laid out there and you got to believe in the vision. There's 3 problems with vision. 1, you don't have it. 2, you don't believe it. And 3, you're not communicating it. So we got to get that in first, and then the core values follow along. Now, we talked a little bit about what are good values, we can start with, where I like to start is what makes you mad, right? So we flip that to a positive. So if I don't like when people are late, I wouldn't say, hey, my value is I don't like being late. I say, okay, I'm on time every time, right? I love excellence. So my value is that I pursue excellence in everything I do. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect, right? And I've actually got a nice definition for excellence is that it's doing the best that you can with the current resources available to you in this moment, right? The best resources available to you in this moment is excellence. So if my arm hurts and I'm a golfer, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. My arm hurts, right? It's not perfection. It's not hitting the best shot ever, every single time. That's impossible. There's only one person who's perfect, and that was Jesus, right? So we can't chase perfection, but we can chase excellence. We can chase persistence. We can chase committed. One of the things as a pro athlete, I knew that I wasn't the most talented guy out there and I wasn't the most skilled guy, but I knew I could be the most committed guy. And committed means I come early, I stay late, I do the reps, I do lots of reps. Lately, I've been using this analogy of, are you a golfer, Brett, by chance? Yeah. So if I were to, we can use this analogy. If I were to ask you, okay, hey, Brett, I'm going to give you a 56-degree wedge. Normally you hit that, 80 yards. And if I were to say, okay, Brett, we're going to go out today and I need you to hit these 5 balls within 80 yards. Okay. Could you do it today? No. But if I said, hey, it's Tuesday and next Tuesday, we're going to hit these 5 balls within 5 yards. It's going to be 80 yards out. We're going to hit within 5 yards of each other. But every night, you and I, Brett, are going to go out. We're going to hit 200 balls a night. 200 balls a night for the next 7 days. Do you think you might be able to at the end of the week be closer to it? Yeah, for sure, right? Because you put in the repetition. And so the lesson here is that we don't rise to the level of our expectation. We fall to the level of our training. So we're talking about vision, we're talking about mission and core values. Yeah, I want to be the most committed. Our vision's of, to be the best father in the world. Well, if we're not putting in the core values of what we want to become, how could we expect to do that over time? We can't. So this is where frustration sets in, because we just haven't done the repetition and we don't have the boundaries set to say, no, I can't be part of that, or no, I shouldn't do that. Well, why can't you do that? Because I have vision over here, man.
So Dr. Dave, let me ask you, from your experience as a elite athlete and with working with other elite athletes, what differences do you see between those who have defined their values as kind of a guidance for their career and their choices and those who haven't?
Man, I think we've all been around people that have direction, right? And have clarity of where they're going. I mean, that's really it. It's like that person's going somewhere. They know where they're going, versus somebody who's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Just kind of, go with the wind. So I think from an athlete's perspective, if, from my experience, I played with some guys that are really good hockey players, and they would just commit themselves to practice all the time, relentless. They're just relentless on practice, shooting, skating. And where I would go, gosh, how many times can we shoot a puck? Like, let's just move on. They would just be out there practicing. Like they were just uber committed to the process. And that, to me, is where excellence lies, is when you commit to that, being the best version of yourself, whatever that vision may be, right? It's inspiring. You go, I wish I could do that.
I think all of us, I'm not a huge sports guy. Like, I like to play sports. I love to go play. I don't really like watching most of them. I love watching hockey live. We have a minor league team in the next town over. And I used to be a season ticket holder, and I absolutely love going to the games because, you get that hometown, almost like high school-esque feel of like, this is our team, those are our boys, right? Kind of thing. I really get into it. But I think most men are familiar with the stories like Michael Jordan practicing just absurd amounts of time before practice, before everybody else got there, after practice, right? I think we've all... No, I'm dating myself because I'm a Gen Xer, right? And Michael Jordan is just the GOAT. But when it comes to basketball, but I grew up listening to those stories like that. That is an athlete who's got it dialed in and has his values and direction, his mission set forward. So I think all of us over a certain age, I'll put that clause in there. Yeah. All of us over the age of 30 grew up listening to the stories like Michael Jordan just working and his insane work ethic. And that's what he attributed everything to, was, I've just put in more shots. I put in more reps than everybody else.
That's it. And so I think we all can aspire to do that, whatever we're in. It doesn't have to be basketball. Like, it's obvious you are a seasoned podcast host and you're really good at it. Well, you didn't start here, right? You've come a long way. What's that?
I saw my first podcast on YouTube. You can go see the very first episode. And I keep it there to help me stay humble, because every time I think I haven't gotten very far, like, I go back and watch that first episode. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So we all have started somewhere, right? And that's not the finish. And so we all can put in the time. We all can read a little bit more. We can do more research. We can, design again and again, like I think about some of the books I've written, like my latest book, I just came out on Thin Ice. I wrote that 17 times. Yeah. Like, you just keep rewriting it and looking at it. At some point you go, okay, it's good enough. Like, let's get it out. Anything you're pursuing is worth the repetition, I think, because it just allows you to feel fulfilled. There's this sort of, what the world tells us, that we got to go to school, get good grades, get a job, learn a skill. You get paid for that skill. That world of that system has left almost 80% of the country disengaged at work, and they don't trust management. But when you find something that you love to do and you're executing it and you're, getting better and better at it all the time, you feel fulfilled. And that fulfillment is what you gravitate to, not the skill development.
Dr. Dave, let's, one of the biggest things I see that gives people is they always come up with excuses, right? The naysayers, the ones that are going, yeah, but, right? And I can hear that twisting in the minds of people right now as they're listening to this conversation. As we talked about, it's just putting in the reps. You can put in the reps. You can become great at whatever you're pursuing. Yes. You get those values and those core values align and with your mission, and you can become unstoppable. But
yes,
there are some guys who hear the term core value and just go, oh, okay, yeah, that's that, that's the corporate speak. That's the, oh God, I always go blank on his name. Tony.
Tony Robbins.
Yeah. That's that Tony Robbins nonsense, right? How do you respond to that?
How's your life going now? Is it working for you now? Right? Typically it's not when we get into those kind of questions, right? It's not working. So, we got to change, So I kind of look at it, there's a great book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, came out many years ago. And what he defined was that, at 4,000 hours, we become a student. At 6,000 and 8,000 hours, we become a teacher. And at 10,000 hours, we become an expert. And so, he looked at all sports and all professions and really did this amazing survey. And it basically came down to that. You may be at 6,000 and 8,000 hours of repetition, to get those additional hours in, to find that, to become an expert in your field, to feel fulfilled. It's a lot of time. Most people become an expert before they're 21 because, they don't have a family, that, they don't have a significant other, kids, and so they're kind of in that high school, college space where they can just devote exorbitant amount of time to it. But it's not over for us that are older, to put in that time, it's just how it works. I didn't make the rules, man. It's just how it works.
That's funny because you said I was a good podcast host, and thank you for that, by the way. That's always nice to hear. I didn't pay him to say that, guys, but no, we talked. I mentioned my first episode is up there, and I think of right. I'm far from the best podcaster, guys. I love podcasts, is why I do it, and I listen to lots of other podcasters, and look at how they ask questions. Right, I'm still studying my craft every day. Mm-hmm. But I look at that first time I turn on the camera, because I grew up public speaking. Public speaking I've spoken in front of thousands of people, doesn't even faze me when I can read a crowd. Talking to a camera sucks. It's a whole nother ballgame, right? But I look back, in between the different shows I've done and the interviews I've done, I recorded easily 700, 800 episodes, 900 episodes between all my various podcasts and podcast appearances and stuff like that. And it's I'm still growing in that, right? I know that. And think about all the hours involved in that. I didn't think about the hours as I was doing it because I loved what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. It aligned with my values. It aligned with my mission. And I loved doing it. But I think about how many hours I spent on a single episode. And then I think about all the episodes I've been on, either as a guest or as a host. And it's holy crap. The hours are clocking, man. I haven't even really thought about it in those ideas yet. But that is, I've quoted that before, the 10,000 hours, become an expert. I think a lot of men don't understand that they're a lot closer to where they want to be than they are. Because like me, I didn't think about all the hours. I mean, if I averaged and said, hey, I spent 5 hours per episode, which is modest compared to some of the hours I've spent on episodes, right? At, 700, 800 episodes, 900 episodes, whatever I've recorded now between my shows and guessing, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think a lot of men understand that they're closer to their goals or closer to their dreams than they realize.
I would 1000% agree. I do want to point out that there's two different mindsets. Okay. There's what's called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So Brett, you obviously have a growth mindset that you want to get better all the time. And it's kind of interesting that you haven't even looked at the hours, because somebody with the growth mindset really doesn't. They don't go 10,000 hours. I'm done. I'm an expert. No, it's always growth. It's always, how can I become better? So when you have a fixed mindset, it's like, yeah, I've done that. There's nothing there. Or I was born this height. I was born this weight. I was born this skin color. I was born in this city, this town. It is what it is, right? That's a fixed mindset. People that move on in this world mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, not just financially. Okay, people that have a growth mindset, they're always looking at being agile and how can they get better? What can they read? What can they attend? Who can they get around? This is how we do it. And so I think this is where the fallible man comes in, because, you're not perfect. You are making mistakes. I actually think I got this quote from Michael Jordan, which is a kind of an egotistical statement. He said, I don't make mistakes. I look at them as learning opportunities. He said, I've never made a mistake in my life. They're all learning opportunities. And I thought that's awesome mindset, right? That, I made a mistake. I'm a loser. I'll never do that again. Right? Well, no, you learn from it. You grow from it. We're all sinners, man. We're all making mistakes. The only way you don't get better is if you quit.
Let me ask you, do you encourage people to write down the core values after they've established them? Are you I'm not a journaling guy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people find a lot of value in journaling. I've tried it. It's never been something that I really responded to. But would you encourage people to write down those values, to outline them somewhere where they can see them and be reminded?
Yeah. So there's a little story here. There's a book in the Bible called Habakkuk. And Habakkuk at the time was, he was a minor prophet, and he was frustrated with God. And so he goes up on this watchtower. And the way I position it is that, this is a time when Nineveh was crazy. Nobody wanted to go to Nineveh. So I look at Nineveh as like, the New York and Los Angeles of the 70s. It was crazy town. Anything goes. And so he goes up on this watchtower and he says, God, I'm frustrated. Like, I'm just going to sit here until you tell me what the heck's going on. And God responds to him with, write the vision on a tablet. And in the Amplified Bible, it says, and make it plain so the runner running by can see it and carry it with them. So I've translated this into, like, you and I, Brett, driving down the highway at 60 miles per hour, and we see this exit sign that says McDonald's next exit. That's pretty clear. We can get off. We understand what it is. If you have a you're driving 60 miles per hour and you see a billboard that has more than 11 words on it, you're not going to know what it is. You're not going to carry it with you. And so, the example I use is, like, I can go back to presidential elections and go back to Obama. And, he said, change, yes, we can. He probably rallied the nation, perhaps the world, with that vision. And this isn't meant to be a political statement. It's just a vision statement. And, we know Trump has used Make America Great Again over and over and over again. It's something simple and it's easy to get around. So yes, write it down. Write it on a 3x5 card. Keep it in your back pocket, until you know what your vision is. And then you don't need to carry it with you anymore. You carry it with you in your brain, not physically on you. So my personal vision is, to unify excellence in the marketplace. That's my vision. I take it everywhere I go. And what's interesting is things that are messy usually gravitate towards me, and I'm able to clean them up and organize them and, put them in a vision, mission, core value, brand promise, narrative, and story, and be able to tell the story clearly.
It's funny because I think a lot of times we think we know what those things are for us, right? We think we know what our core values are. We think we have a handle on what our vision is or what our direction is that we think we're supposed to go. So I don't know how you feel about, AI and all the stuff that's popping up with AI, but for YouTube, there's a company called vidIQ, and they're a great asset. They track your channel in real time. They offer you suggestions on how to tweak everything about from your thumbnail to your titles to your everything in it, right? But they have an AI coach built into it now. And so you can like run questions by it. Well, I've had a vidIQ account for years now, right? So I was really curious the other day because I hit this kind of wall. And it's like, man, I just don't feel like I'm hitting the right group, right? My what's the word? I just went blank on it. This is what happens when I go totally off script. My character, right? I call him Bob. He is this is the person I'm aiming for, right?
Yeah, we call that your persona.
I have 5 pages worked out of questions on defining who Bob is. But I was really curious. So I asked vidIQ, it's like, hey, compare my channel, ignore who I've listed as my competitors, the people in the same group field as me. Look at my content and identify my 5 big competitors for me on YouTube who are in the same field. It didn't bring back a single one of the people I thought I was competing with as a podcaster. Right? I had 5 podcasts identified that I thought, okay, this is the field I am in. This is the group I am in. Didn't return a single one of them. Came up with a bunch of channels I had never heard of before. But I started looking at their channels compared to mine and started looking at what they had on there, types of content, what they listed was their, this is what we cover. And it's like, man, I've spent years comparing myself to the wrong group. I'm not in that category. This is where I thought I was going originally, but the way I do my content, what I think is important to talk about, does not align with that group. I think a lot of men find themselves in that, where we think we have a pretty good handle on it, but until we get some outside perspective, right? An observer, an outside onlooker going, I don't think you're playing the game you think you're playing, bro. I think that happens to a lot of guys. So, for the men listening, what would be your advice as far as they're looking at their mission, their vision, they're trying to, right? They haven't necessarily even put it in those words yet. They're starting to try and go, okay, so I need to align with core values. I need to have a vision. What would be your advice as far as like fleshing that out and identifying that in their own life?
Yeah. So I think that whenever we compare ourselves to other people, like if I compare myself to you, Brett, the first thing I'm do is look at you and go, man, you're awesome at this, right? I'm not that. And so we see things that we like. So we compare ourselves to what they're really good at. And we look at ourselves that we don't do that. And so it's a loss right off the bat. So I kind of look at, again, back to, what makes you upset? There's some deep level passion there, right? There's some deep seated stuff in there. That's where you start. So I really don't like messy things. That's where I started. Like, I just don't like things that are mess. Why? I don't know why. Maybe it's my upbringing. Maybe it's what's in my DNA. And so I take that and I flip it to a positive and go, okay, what's the opposite of messy? Well, perfect. It can't be perfect because I'll never be perfect. But what about excellence? What about committed? What about persistent? What about accountable? right? And so I wrestle with that and I go, you know what? I think excellence is what it is. What exactly is excellence? And so now I take that as sort of my subject and I work it around. So one of the best vision statements I ever wrote was for a company called Freedom United, which is the largest modern day anti-slavery organization in the world. And their vision is to end slavery. And so like, it's a great vision statement, isn't it? To end slavery. Who doesn't want to end slavery? Whether it's work slavery or sexual slavery, like it's just a good to end slavery. And so it doesn't have to be long. And so you kind of start investigating, you know, what are some really good vision statements out there and how could, you know, whatever it is that, you know, makes you upset and you're passionate about, and flip it into a positive and start kind of wrestling with, okay, what are some other things that are out there? And then you aspire to it. Doesn't mean you're ever going to achieve it. You aspire to it. And so that's kind of the start of it. And I would say that, you know, I've coached a lot of executives in this space, a lot. And for me to coach somebody through it, it does take 6 weeks, 7 weeks. It's not something you can come up with immediately and you get it. This is not like digging a hole in the backyard. Like if you get a bunch of shovels and a bunch of buddies, you can get a bigger hole faster. When you're talking about vision for your life, it's something that's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. It's something you got to wrestle with. You got to play with. You got to talk about it, you know, and you fine tune it over time. One of my mentors in this area, his name is Tom Adama. And Tom was the right-hand man to John Maxwell. And I spent a year with him and just understanding what vision is. And so, you know, it does take time. And that's where he said, you know, it takes, you know, the 3 problems of vision. 1, you don't have it. 2, don't believe it. 3, you're not communicating it. And so it's just not something that you get overnight. It's just takes time to kind of lay out there and keep working it and keep working it. And then it'll come. It will come. It's not one and done. And so that would be my advice, is where to start. Start there. And then the same thing with your values. You know, what do you value at your core? And so, you know, and you flip those to a positive, and that's a great start. And you're you know, you will start to align with those people in your life. And you got to make decisions one of my mentors told me, said, if you don't like where you're at, get a new set of friends. Because you're the culmination of your 5 friends. You're right there in the middle. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. Like, I need a new set of friends, man.
I think that was one of the hardest pills to swallow when I started going my own direction, when I left the corporate world and trying to get out on my own and build my own. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to serve people and make the world a better place. Was I had to start looking at my friends and be like, are these friends, whether they understand the vision or not, are they trying to support me in that? Are they uplifting me in that? Or are they trying to be like, let's get some sense back into you, right? That's a really hard pill to swallow when you start realizing that some of those people in your life are not conducive to those values.
Yeah, and it doesn't make them bad people, right? It just that's the thing. It's like I don't think you excommunicate them, but you kind of move in a direction where you can get around people that can help you go where you need to go. Doesn't make them bad. Doesn't make you wrong or right. Just means you're going in a different direction.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned start with what you don't like, right?
Yeah.
How do you sort out between what is a foundational value, or what should be a foundational value, versus what sounds like a good idea, or what just might be a good rule to put in place to help the journey, right? Because all 3 of those things, they come real close to each other, and sorting them out can be a little convoluted.
Yeah, I don't know that it's all that clean. It can be convoluted. It's okay, right? To me, it's more about the direction, of where I'm going. And I feel good about that direction, and it's going to be good for everybody around me. So I don't know that it's super clean. There's definitely some overlap there, and it's okay. As humans, man, we're a little messy. So we don't have to have it, not all the lines touching. There's some overlap there. It's a great question though.
Now, gentlemen, there is one of the most important takeaways you need to hear in this whole show right here. You now have official permission. Okay. It's official. It's been recorded. Dr. Dave says it's okay that it's a little screwy and convoluted. It's not going to be clean.
Yes.
Because I think some of us need to hear that. Like, I know there was a point in my journey I needed to hear that, because I'm a planner. Like I am organized and I research and I plan, and I don't generally get lost in the planning and that keeps me from executing. But like, before I take action, I've done a lot of research. I've dug into it. I feel like I have to have this clean line. And there was definitely a time when I needed to hear, it's okay that it's a little convoluted right now. You'll sort it out as you go. I think a lot of us never start because we get into that convoluted territory and we're like, we just freeze up. We're like, oh my God, obviously I don't know what I'm doing. Right.
There's a common saying out there. Well, I need to get my ducks in a row. And I say, well, show me ducks in a row. When have you ever seen ducks in a row? It's just not, maybe at the Peabody, at the, in Nashville, like where they got them trained to walk in a row. Like that just doesn't happen. It's not real.
Dr. Dave, we've covered. Ever wonder what really happens behind the mic? When the lights go off and the polished show ends, well, that's when the real story begins. Join us on Patreon and get access to our exclusive Patreon-only podcast, Behind Closed Mics, Fallible and Unfiltered. The messy, honest truth of growing as a man, husband, father, and content creator. No scripts, no polish, just the highs, lows, and chaos of running multiple podcasts. I'm up to 4. Coaching, building a brand, working freelance as a podcast producer and digital marketer, and showing up as a husband and dad all at the same time. Plus, you get insider content from all 3 of my public shows, unique community opportunities, and direct interaction with me, available at every level. If you love what we do, and you're the kind of person who wants to know how the sausage is made, that's your cup of tea, well, guys, then you want to see in the back room. Join us at patreon.com/thefallibleman today. We've covered where I wanted to go as far as like making sure we cross our T's and dotted our I's on this. But what am I missing?
So this is something that's coming out probably next year. It's going to be my 3rd book. And this one I'm super excited because my other 2 books have been really kind of a story around faith and around vision. But this book is going to be a productivity book about what inhibits us from performance. And so I've sort of taken it down into what an acronym called FLAP. All right. So what gets in the way of our core value? What gets in the way of having a growth mindset is our FLAP. Okay. It's our fear. It's our lust. It's our anger and our pride. So if we're mindful of our fear, lust, anger, pride, and we know that it's something that gets us, then we can move forward. But if we just ignore it, then you're going to fall victim to it. And so many leaders, so many people across the country fall victim to this every day. And I like to say that we all struggle with at least 2 of these every single day. And so lust is one of those areas where, well, you may not have sexual lust, right? And never get trapped in there. Most guys do, because that's how we're built. But I would say a lot of the lust is possession lust, right? It's things that I want I want a bigger house. I want a faster car. I want a newer car. I want a bigger bank account. I want multiple commas in my bank account. And this drives us versus our values driving us versus our vision driving us. And so, your fear, there's two types of fear. There's a preservation fear, which is like, okay, I'm standing on the top of a building and I know I shouldn't jump. I shouldn't jump off the building. That's a good fear, right? But there's also the bad fear that cripples us. There's that anxiety and stress that we have, right? That, okay, if I change, what happens? There's that fear. There's the fear, lust, anger, right? Oh my gosh. Anger is all about where we think we need to go and somebody's in the way. Somebody's getting in the way, and this makes me angry. We see this with driving a car in traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And so somebody gets in my way. I need to go fast, and you're driving too slow. What's wrong with you? So this anger, and then our pride. Oh my gosh, our pride. Pride comes before the fall, right? The pride that we have and our inability to be agile gets in our way.
Dr. Dave, let me ask you. So, de facto answer, right? The best answer, and I will stand by it personally as well. The best answer for flap is God.
Yes. Amen.
No questions asked. I 100% believe that, guys. I know there are people who listen to this show who are not faith-based. What would be your advice to them other than, start a relationship with God? Because yes, that is definitely the right answer. But for those who are not ready to make that jump, right? For dealing with fear and lust and anger, and pride, what do you advise them?
I would say that you're spot on with the topic of, your core values. There's something inherently good about what you want out of life, and your flap is not bringing you there. And so the very first step is to recognize you got an issue. If you don't recognize it, we really can't do anything with it. You got to say, you know what? I have this issue. So it's not about God. It's about, doing good in the world based upon your values and your vision and feeling fulfilled of who you are, bringing value to the world, building something bigger than yourselves. So whether it's you're part of a nonprofit or a for-profit organization, like building something bigger. When you get into your pride, it's all about you and your low emotional intelligence. And we've all been around those people that they're just so stuck on the same topic over and over and over again. It's because they lack vision in their life. And so I think the first step is just to recognize I got an issue, right? And then start from there.
I would 100% agree. I mean, until you actually go, hey, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm throttling myself back here. It's really hard to go into forward momentum until you at least humor that idea. You gotta
yeah, and I think the world's going to say it's okay to watch all this porn. It's okay. Everybody else does it. Look at all these people doing it. Look at all the OnlyFans. Look at how much money you can make here. That's cool. Like the world tells us our flap is okay, but our internal fulfillment meter says it's not. And God is the answer. Ultimately, like you said.
Dr. Dave, you got the book you're working on for next year. You said it's coming out next year.
Yeah.
And that's if you don't rewrite it 17 times.
Yes.
you got me with that one because I have written the first 100 pages of the book I started 5 years ago, probably 7 times. And okay. I've never gotten past 120 pages before I started on it again.
Yes.
Right. I get so far and then I like, is this really the direction I want? Like, and totally redo it in my head. I have so many drafts. It's ridiculous. So I felt you and you're like, I rewrote it 17 times. Yeah. No, other than the new book, what is next? What's on the horizon for Dr. Dave Jones?
Oh man, I'm just like your listeners, viewers out there. I'm chasing it too, man. I'm making mistakes along the way. I'm looking at those and going, okay, how can I be a better version of myself? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm chasing excellence. I'm really super inspired to help as many people get where they need to go. That's what I'm inspired to do. Cause I kind of know if I help enough people get where they need to go, I'll probably land in a good place too. So that's what Emma's Good is. Emma's Good is a Christian ad agency. And, we really love working with clients who want to glorify the Lord with their talents and their abilities. And so I just really am in a serving mode right now of helping as many people as I can.
I love it. So I freelance on the side. I'm a podcast producer. I do several things. I actually have a friend who owns a digital marketing company in Florida, a small one-man show. He outsources some of his work to me because I do a lot of the stuff anyways. I produce podcasts for some of his clients and stuff like that. But honestly, like working is the first time I've ever worked for or with, for another Christian. Mm. And man, I am so blessed. Like it has been so glorious working with a person who is more focused on his faith and making sure that what we're doing is serving and glorifying God as we go in the way we do business and the way we treat our clients. It has been, I've worked for Fortune 100 companies. I worked in the corporate world for years. And it has been such a breath of fresh air to work with somebody. It is the only time I've ever been in a business meeting and we'd be like, we need to stop and pray about this. Just the relationship with him is just so amazing, working with another believer. So that's been such a glorious thing. I'm enjoying that so much. So I understand why you like working with believers, because it's like, you know what? That's a very different experience. You've got...
Yeah. And I would say that this is my 25th year. I've been in this Christian bubble of working with Christian entrepreneurs. And like, I hear some stories from friends in the corporate world and I'm like, wow, like that's just not what I've ever done. Like, kind of some of the backstabbing, like we have so many clients that like, they have their own designers and we have a designer, and it's like a collaborative face off on, okay, let's see what ads work. Let's push them out there to the world. It's not like somebody's job's on the line and we have to put somebody else down so we can pretend to look like we're better. It's just not that environment at all. And so I do know that there are some Christian environments that are not healthy. But we're definitely striving to be healthy and bring on the best product we can to glorify the Lord.
It's amazing because the amount of like ethics classes I had to take, right? The yearly ethics training and stuff like that for some of the companies I work for. And then to have my job be at risk because I push back. I'm like, this violates ethics. I won't do this. They're like, it doesn't violate any ethics as well in our contract. It's like, yeah, there's what's within our contract, and there's what's right. And this is really, you are laying in that gray zone really heavy, guys. I'm not okay with this. And to have that actually be like, well, then maybe you should find another job. It's like, yeah, I think
maybe I should.
I left a job in sales because it's like, they told me they were really super ethical and faith-based. And it's like, they don't push they don't hard sell or anything like that. And then the jobs, like the leads they would send me on, it's like, whoa, no, I can't sell to this person. They're on Social Security and, living in a manufactured home and barely surviving, and their health is shot. And no, I'm not going to sell them a $40,000 product. That's insane. Well, they got my paycheck. No, like I have to look at myself, and I got to look at my wife when I go home. I got to look at my children in the eye. It's like, nah. Yeah. So it's been a great experience working with people who actually live by faith.
Well, this is back to the values conversation, like having it a little messy and knowing I don't want to be in that environment. Right. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have that, like that written down and like, in a perfect sentence. You just know that's not what I want to be part of. That's a value.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, we just tell them to go to emisgood.com and contact me there.
That's a really good name. What is M? What is M?
So the original name was Marketing Ministries. And so in 2013, we rebranded. We wanted something like a Verizon. Like, what's a Verizon? Mm-hmm. What's a Geico? Geico stands for Government Employee Insurance Company, but they use a gecko and a pig to say Geico. What's an Apple? It's a fruit. No, it's not. It's a pretty big computer company. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted something fun. And so at the time, my VP says, well, what about M is good? And I was like, well, can't we be great?
That's fair.
And and I was like, well, there's a saying in the amongst evangelicals is God is good. God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of spun off that. So I just tell people that, M can be whatever you want it to be. It can be marketing, it can be money, it can be ministries. It's whatever.
I love it. Dr. Dave, as we land this plane, regardless of what we talked about, what is the most important thing you want our audience to hear today?
Oh, man, I would say that God's got a plan for your life, and glorifying Him with your talents and your abilities is the best place to be, man. It's the most humble place to be. It's a growth mindset. And, God's got a plan. It's kind of, I don't know, I guess something everybody says, but it's true. God's got a plan for your life. And no matter where you're at on the spectrum of terms of job or money or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You can put in the reps today and build a better life for tomorrow if you embrace the idea that God's got a plan for your life.
I love it. Guys, for Dr. Dave and myself, thanks for hanging out with us today. Be better tomorrow because of what you do today. We'll see you on the next one. Mm-hmm. The Driven to Thrive broadcast. Purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving. Purpose-filled, intentional lives. Affiliate disclaimer. MyPillow, like any other source, cycles promos. Because of the extended life cycle of a podcast, the immediate promotion that you heard mentioned in this episode may no longer be in effect when you hear it because you could be hearing this 5 years from when I recorded it. However, as long as MyPillow is a sponsor of the Driven to Thrive broadcast, our show, our promo code THRIVE is always good for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75. No matter what you hear in this episode, as far as the current promo, Thrive is always good as long as MyPillow is a sponsor of the show for up to 80% off your order and free shipping over $75.